Hello. All right, let me just go ahead and spotlight my own video here. There we go. All right, thank you again for joining us. Welcome to Syracuse University's Orange Experience, Healthy Cooking with Flavor. My name is Corey Miller. I'm the Executive Director for Events and Affinity Programs here at Syracuse University in our Office of Alumni Engagement. Before we begin today's program, just a couple quick reminders as we get started. First and foremost, we are pleased to provide closed captioning during this program. Please see the Zoom chat instructions for how to do this. You can just open the chat by clicking in your toolbar. That way it'll stay up throughout the program. That chat is also where we'll take questions throughout the evening and where you'll see other important tips and tricks as you join us in our Zoom meeting tonight. But we are excited to offer closed captioning for those that want to partake and choose to see that on the bottom of their screen. This program is being recorded. If you don't want your image recorded, feel free to disable your video camera by clicking on the video camera icon in the lower left-hand corner. You're more than welcome to do that. We'll just be sharing this recording with alumni who maybe last minute weren't able to join us tonight, who reach out to request it. And last but certainly not least, we will be addressing questions later in the program. So enter your questions in the chat at any time and check out the email that you received today. You'll notice that in your email where you got your Zoom link, we also shared some low sodium recipes with tutorial videos. So after our program ends this evening, you can continue to have fun in the kitchen. And we will go ahead and pop those again in the chat right now, but we'll also pop them in at the end of the program in case you didn't have a chance to check out those recipes yet. And now it's my pleasure to introduce Bill Collins. He's a culinary specialist in the Department of Nutrition and Food Studies in David B. Falk College. Hello, Bill.
Hi, everybody. Very nice to have you. Take you through several things today. We're going to move sort of fast in order for you to get as much information as you can in a short period of time. This is a beautiful kitchen. I designed these kitchens about 6 years ago. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, this is our 4th year in here. I'll have 32 students at any one time in this kitchen. That's craziness, okay? 32 people who don't know how to use knives or stoves. It's a little scary. It is a little scary, I'll tell you. But nobody ever gets hurt, and they have a lot of fun, and they're learning a life skill, okay? So today I'm gonna take it not from teaching you how to cook, but teaching you how to be aware of the sodium content that you find in your diet. And that's really what we're gonna look at, okay? I'm not looking for you guys to eliminate salt from your diet. That would be silly, okay? But as Americans, we eat too much salt. The CDC says that we should eat about 2,400 milligrams a day. That's the upper limit, okay? And as Americans, we eat 3,600 milligrams a day. So we're 50% over where we should be. And I'm just gonna share some ideas, some things that you can sort of keep in your head. None of this is rocket science. It's not hard. It's more about awareness. You just have to become aware of what's happening in your food and in your diet. We're so concerned about fat. We're so concerned about calories, but we buy things that are prepackaged, open them up, put it on, heat it up, put it on, but nobody ever looks at the sodium content. Okay, and that leads to high blood pressure, which can end up in strokes and heart disease. And that's something that our lovely country, we unfortunately have way too much of it going on. Okay, so I'm going to bring you through a few things, share some different items that I have up here that might help. I'm not going to get into this right now. I want to get the food started. I'm going to make a marinara sauce on the fly, and I'm going to make a barbecue sauce on the fly. We're going to get those going. I'm going to show you how to sear mushrooms as well, because there's a reason for that, okay? It's not just because I adore mushrooms. I adore the fact that I found 2 of them in the walk-in refrigerator. So that was a lovely thing. And I said, I know what I can show them on that. So moving along, we're going to move over to the stove. Actually, we're going to move over to my cutting board. I got an email today from a student that I had 12 years ago who said, Chef Collins, remember me? Of course, that's kind of hard. when you get to be my age. But I did remember her. And she said, I just did an Instagram. Was it Instagram? I don't know. Again, that gets confusing for me. But some sort of an Instagram demonstration of cutting onions. And she used my technique that I taught her 12 years ago. I'm going to show you this real quick. Because if you learn how to cut an onion the proper way, it's really amazing. And I need that for the base of both of my sauces. I already cut one. I'm just going to show you this real quick. So when you get an onion out, okay, you've got two very distinct ends. This is the stem end that grows up into the air. And then you have the root end that grows down into the ground. You want to hang on to that root end. That's your friend. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the top of the onion off. I'm going to cut the stem end off. So I just do that. I create a nice flat surface. Okay, and I'm going to put that flat down on my cutting board, and I'm going to cut the onion in half right through the root system. Okay, so that's what it's going to look like once I cut through it, right through it. Now is when I peel an onion. You don't peel an onion at the beginning. It's a pain. It doesn't work. But now it's super easy. All I do is go down however many layers I want to go. Okay, and the peel just comes off like that. All right, so here's a half a peeled onion. So I'm going to put this down on my cutting board. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my knife and I'm going to cut it like bike spokes, like this. Okay, boom, 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 boom. Just, I don't want to go all the way through. I don't want to hit that root part. So if I'm working fairly quickly, I want to hear it hit the cutting board each time. You can see that my knife is changing directions. Okay, and again, this is something, I'm sure you could probably find it online. I don't have a video of me doing this. Actually, you know what? I might have a video. I'll try to get that over to the Alumni Association so that they can send it to you. And then I just turn the onion to the side. Okay, and that's a diced onion. I'm not crying. Okay, I'm not crying because my knife was sharp and the onion was cold. Two little tricks, okay? If you cheer up when you cut onions, keep your onions in the fridge. Make sure your knife is sharp and then cut it the way I just showed you. Okay, so I'm going to set that aside. I'm going to put some heat on the stove over here on my two outer pans. These are crazy, crazy, super, super commercial stoves. The BTUs in these are insane. The kids have a lot of trouble keeping control of it. There's nothing on the handle that says low, medium, medium high. Okay, it's just a dial that turns 90 degrees. So that's on full bore. I won't want it on that high. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to take some oil. I think the recipes that you got say 2 tablespoons of oil. So there, you saw how carefully I measured that. Okay, there's 2 tablespoons of oil. And then I'm just going to introduce the onions. Our goal, if we are taking one of the 2 flavor enhancers, there's only 2 flavor enhancers, salt and acid. I never want anything to taste salty. I never want anything to taste sour. But the addition of either of those things will perk up the flavors of what's already in there. Okay, we're trying to reduce the sodium. So when you see what I'm doing today, you're going to see a lot of acids. Okay, because we have to accentuate the other flavor enhancer. So I'm going to put the onions in. What I'm trying to do is build flavor, build layers of flavor. Okay, so I need to take this off my cutting board. I'm going to turn both of those down a little bit. I'm not really looking to brown the onions, even though there wouldn't be anything wrong with that. I could brown the onions, okay? Because when you brown the onion, you're caramelizing the natural sugars that exist in the food. That would be another example of a flavor enhancer, okay? We're enhancing. So the marinara is over here, the barbecue's over here. Now I'm pretty sure that the marinara sauce says to sweat the onions. And then you add a tablespoon of tomato paste. And it says 2 chopped cloves of garlic. Okay, well, that's going to be about a tablespoon too. So there's my tomato paste. And there's my garlic. Okay? I'll just stir that a little bit. Garlic burns very easily. Okay, that's why the garlic went in later. You don't ever put garlic in at the beginning. The tomato paste needs to cook just for a second here. I don't even care if the tomato paste sticks on the bottom. If it sticks on the bottom of the pan, I'm going to deglaze it with some red wine in a second. Now there's a little change on the barbecue sauce because what it says is to add the molasses and the cider vinegar. And what I want to do is I'm going to add the spices first. Okay, so if my memory serves me, it's about a tablespoon and a half of mustard powder. And a half teaspoon of both chili and cayenne. Think about bold flavors when you're doing these things. If you're eliminating the salt, you need something to take its place. And there's the cayenne. What I'm doing is I'm activating these flavors by putting the dry spices into the pan. They're going to get happy a lot faster. Okay. Let those go. Okay, now we're back to the marinara sauce. So I need to deglaze the pan with red wine. We spared no expense at Syracuse University, okay? So I think it calls for a half a cup. I think that was a half a cup, okay? I don't measure anything ever. Even those spices were a little bit off, okay? So I deglaze that. The wine picked everything up off the bottom. And now I'm reducing it. By reducing it, I'm getting rid of the alcohol. The alcohol is going up into the atmosphere. So back to the barbecue sauce. I told you we were going all over the place. I believe it was 1 cup of apple cider vinegar and 3/4 of a cup of molasses. Okay, so those liquids are in. Now, typically, you would let that reduce a little bit. Why do we reduce it? We get rid of the water. By getting rid of the water, we intensify the flavor. Okay? We're under a time constraint, so I'm not going to do that. So both of these now are ready for the tomato product. So here's the marinara sauce. Diced tomatoes in water, just simple diced tomatoes in water. Canned product. That's 3 cups. Okay? Turn that around. And I'm going to let this cook for a little bit. And while that's happening, I'm going to put some dried herbs in it. I am not a proponent of dried herbs. I like fresh herbs. I always use fresh herbs. But we've been shut down now for a week. The fresh herbs took a turn for the worse. Okay? So you can always use dry herbs. So there go the dry herbs. You can see at no point have I put salt or pepper in this. Now, a lot of my recipes say at the end, S&P, that's salt and pepper, to taste. Okay, so what I'm trying to show you is we can take the sodium out of a lot of the ingredients we're putting in these dishes, and then we can add as much sodium as we think makes it just right for us. Okay, so that's the difference. Okay, so that marinara is all set. And then over here, we're adding, again, it says a 28 8-ounce can of tomatoes. That's 3 cups. Okay, so here go my 3 cups of tomatoes. And there's the ketchup, which I believe the recipe says 2 cups. And I'm going to stir these. I'm going to turn the heat down, and those sauces are done. And I'm worn out, okay? I need a rest. It's not hard to cook, guys. It isn't. It's just not hard. So I'll turn this down a little bit. Don't want it scorched in the bottom. You can see I just accessed these drawers. All these drawers are just loaded with all these implements, which is lovely. The only thing that has to happen with this barbecue sauce is it has to just cook. The flavors are going to intensify as it cooks. Okay, because again, we're dissipating the water, getting the water out of there. The marinara sauce is just going to come together. And then what I'll do is I'll just puree both of them. I can show you a marinara that I did a few days ago. Okay, so I just want to show you one thing. With these mushrooms, I already dangled the mushrooms, so I have to talk about the mushrooms. Okay, I've got a nice saute pan out here. You can see it is not nonstick. It's not nonstick. If I have the right temperature on this to put the oil in, get the oil hot first, my food won't stick. Okay, my food will not stick. So you don't need to have nonstick pans. You just have to have the right temperature. Now this was sitting over the pilot lights. We always have pilot lights going on all these stoves. Okay, so again, I'm going to put the oil down. Now the one thing about mushrooms is they are like sponges. They're like sponges. They just absorb any liquid that you put anywhere around them when they're raw. It's starting to cook. So I'm using more oil than I typically would when I'm searing something. Okay, I'm getting some nice shimmering in the pan. If I see little wisps of smoke coming off the top, I'm good to go. So I'm going to dump these mushrooms in. My intention is to get them to caramelize. Again, I talked about that term, caramelize on the outside. That's flavor. It's flavor. That's what we're trying to do, okay? If I dump way too many mushrooms in here and they're stacked 3 deep, they're going to steam. If they steam, that's the mushroom that you're typically used to, okay? This is not that mushroom. Not talking about the type of mushroom, but the way we're preparing it. So this is fine. These guys are going in. And I'm going to lay them all flat down. It only takes about maybe a minute or two to get that color that I'm looking for. I'm looking for a nice brown color on it. That tells me that they've been caramelized. All right. Now, frequently, and back when I was running restaurants for 25 years, this would be the time to put salt and pepper on it as they're cooking. All the restaurants that I owned, there was never salt or pepper on the table because we were seasoning everything appropriately in the kitchen. Now I realize how much sodium we were putting on things. Okay, so you have to watch restaurants. You have to watch prepackaged foods, canned foods. So we're going to talk more about that in a second. So that's going, I'm not doing anything. Okay? When I give the students a pair of tongs, they will touch everything in this kitchen with these tongs. They can't help themselves. They think they are the coolest things in the world. But you have to let the product speak for itself. You have to let it do what it's trying to do, which is to caramelize. And when I see a change in the actual meat of the mushroom, that's typically the time that I'm going to want to flip them over. That's why you never have your face over a saute pan. Okay, because I wouldn't have any eyebrows left right now. That's not advantageous. Okay, these are done. Now I'm not sure that the cameras, but you can see it. Okay, I want to make sure I don't send off the smoke detector. See the color? Okay, that is the color that we want. That is caramelization. That is what makes food taste good. That's why we sear chicken breasts. That's why we put things on the grill. Get some color on on a piece of salmon when we put it on the grill or put it in the pan. Okay? So, boom, marinara sauce, cook it away. Okay, and I'll show you the end product of that in a second. That I already did. In all honesty, the barbecue sauce needs to just work for a little bit. Okay, so now we're gonna shift to one. Okay. So I've got some things out here that I want to talk to you about. I'm gonna hold them up so you can sort of see them. First and foremost, if you are going to use salt in your food that you're making at home from scratch, I want you to use kosher salt. No, I don't own a company that sells kosher salt, okay? It has really big grains. Can you see how big those grains are? So if I do a teaspoon of kosher salt, there's 1,800 milligrams in it. If I do a teaspoon of iodized salt, there's 2,400 milligrams of sodium in it. Because the grains are smaller, there's more salt in it, more salt, more sodium. So this is just a really easy way to reduce your sodium intake by 22%. If you're baking, okay, if you're just cooking, and the recipe calls for 1 teaspoon of salt, use kosher salt, folks, okay? It's just super easy. Along that line, I never understood why people buy salted butter. Aside from the fact that a lot of recipes call for salted butter, buy unsalted butter. You should be in control of how much sodium you're putting in something, not the dairy, okay, or the manufacturer of the butter. So you're looking at about 60 milligrams in a tablespoon of butter, the salted butter, as opposed to 0. 0 is better, okay? So I never, ever, ever buy salted butter. That's just me, but it's just another trick, okay? Because you could reduce the sodium considerably. Now let's talk about some canned products. Just quickly, I won't spend an ungodly amount of time. Here are 2 tomato sauces, okay? They're both from Wegmans. That doesn't matter, they just say tomato sauce. Is this what I'm gonna put on pasta? Probably not. Okay, I'm gonna make a marinara sauce that has some flavors that I developed and created. But one of them says no salt added, okay? And then if we go to the back, a 1/4 cup of the one that has salt in it has 260 milligrams. And the one with no salt added has 20. That's 95% reduction in your sodium just by reading the label. And again, you might not find that this has enough salt in it when you get the dish done, but you can add a little bit of salt to get it to where you want it to be, okay? But you're in control. You buy this, you're not in control. The sodium's in there and you don't even realize you're eating it, okay? That's just one example. Corn, no salt added versus regular. This is the one with salt, 200 milligrams in a 1/2 cup of canned corn, 10 in the no salt added. And what you're gonna find is a lot of stores, specifically Wegmans, they understand what people are looking for. If we start asking for certain foods, they will stock it if we're gonna buy it. And you're starting to see a lot of no salt added products that are available in grocery stores, okay? So that was just another example. Potatoes. I thought this one, I want to just say this one because it's phenomenal. 420 milligrams, 2/3 of a cup versus 15. 420. That's like 1/5, 1/6 of what you're supposed to eat all day in 2/3 of a cup of canned potatoes. Okay. And the last thing I want to show you, because I made 2 sauces with diced tomatoes in them, I was able to take commercially bought barbecue sauce, and with some of those alterations that I did by adding no salt added tomatoes and no salt added ketchup, I reduced the sodium in the batch by 95%.
again, you might get to the end and say, you could use a little bit of salt. That's fine. Put a little salt in it. Just be careful. You can wean yourself off this desire for sodium. Right now, we are just hungry for sodium because we find it in so many different things. That's what we have to change. We have to change that. In buying products that say no salt added, or maybe don't. These are some of the best canned tomatoes you can buy. San Marzano. Okay, they come from Italy. This doesn't say anything about salt or sodium or anything else. A half a cup of this, 20 milligrams, 20. Okay, as opposed to 300 for some that have full salt. So, and lastly, here's a marinara sauce. This is something that we use in here in these kitchens. Okay, in a hurry. Half a cup, 490 milligrams, 490. All right, so that's my diatribe. I'm done with that because when you start reading the labels, you'll be amazed at what you're putting into your body. This is the last one because this is creamy tomato soup. Sounds healthy. I'm going to sit down to some creamy tomato soup. 880 milligrams. 880, 1/3 of your daily allotment, 37% in 1 cup. 1 cup. What if you have 2 cups? Well, you better not eat anything the rest of the day, okay? All right, so I talked about flavor enhancers. What are we gonna do? We're gonna try to get rid of some of these things that have the sodium already in them. But we also have to give these little flavor bursts. And that's why I have things like limes and oranges and lemons, okay? This is a great little tool. I'm not encouraging you to go out and buy one, but you should, okay? It's called a microplane, and it's just amazing. It's also great with hard cheeses, okay? But hard cheeses have a lot of sodium in them, so watch that, okay? But you just bring it across. As soon as you see the white, just stop, but look at that, okay? That is a fun thing to run into, okay, when you're eating, because you won't really, sometimes you have to think about it. What was that? Something was making that taste really good, okay? So citrus, big deal, okay? Garlic and onions, okay? These are shallots. They're just lovely. Shallots are much more mellow than a white onion, okay? So keep that in mind. What else do I have up here? So spices. You won't be able to see these very well. They're like little beads, okay? And they're seeds, okay? This is coriander seed. Probably my favorite seed out there, because when you break these up, and you can see I have them in a mortar and pestle, okay? But you can also just put them down on the table, put a little piece of plastic wrap on it, and just take the bottom of a saute pan, and you can just crack them. And this will, the perfume smell that comes out of this is heavenly. Now, is it used typically in a lot of Asian cuisines? Yes, but I put it in a lot of things because I just find it to be a lovely, lovely sensation. Plus, if you just crack them and don't grind it, you get a little mouthfeel. You'll actually bite into it. Okay, so I like that. You may or may not. So, and coriander seed, by the way, comes from the same plant that gives us cilantro. Cilantro is the leaf, coriander is the seed after it flowers. Okay. A couple other ideas: horseradish. Okay, you don't have to go crazy with it, but a little bit of horseradish in something. It has 25 milligrams. Okay, granted it's in a teaspoon, but you also know that horseradish is hot. So sometimes with the spicier things, okay, the sodium isn't too bad because you don't need that much of it. So that would be another example. And then we got this guy, balsamic vinegar. One of my favorite go-tos, because remember at the beginning when I said there's 2 flavor enhancers, salt and acid? This aside from the citrus, is probably my other favorite acid to add. Because what I like to do is put this into a pan and reduce it down. And if I reduce it down, it becomes a balsamic gloss, okay, where I could actually put it in a squirt bottle, just like this. I could put it in a squirt bottle, and I would be able to paint on a plate. I could put a direct line out. You have to be careful. It takes a little time to reduce it like that. So you can also just add it just the way it is. Add it to your dish. You're going to notice that it will enhance the flavors that are in there. Don't dump too much in, or else it's all going to taste like balsamic vinegar. So these are just little things that you can sort of play with. The spices, I mean, you can go anywhere with them. There's so many beautiful spices out there. Fresh herbs. Don't forget about fresh herbs. They're absolutely amazing. All right. Now, one thing that happened today when I came in, and this is the last thing I'm going to show you, and then I'm just going to show you what that marinara sauce would look like on a plate. You're really hungry. And you say, oh, I'll have some hummus and some pretzels. All packaged up. It looks great. It says right on the front, 10 grams of protein, 5 grams of fiber, 0 grams of trans fat. Okay, now it's got 370 calories. Okay, the sodium is 790 milligrams. So this is your little snack in the afternoon. You just killed off 1/3 of your daily intake of sodium. Plus that 2,400 that I say that we should be shooting for, they want to lower that. They want to bring it down even further because the United States is so prevalent in heart disease and strokes. So, and then we have these Lunchables, okay? I don't know if you guys eat Lunchables or if you just give them to your kids, but 670 milligrams of sodium in this thing, 28% of your daily allotment, okay? They're just examples, guys. I'm not trying to freak you out. I just want you to have an understanding that we eat too much sodium. What can we do to get rid of it, okay? If you're cooking from scratch at home, be aware of what you're putting in, okay? Soups, salad dressings. I think, did we give them salad dressing recipes? So we gave you some salad dressing recipes that are healthy. It's not hard to make salad dressings. I can make a salad dressing in 45 seconds, okay? So salad dressings. If you're eating out at a restaurant, get your dressing on the side and apply it the way you want to. Okay, don't have them dress it for you because then you're eating, probably 1,000 milligrams of sodium. I'm just gonna pop over here. So this is a marinara, again, that I made just a couple days ago, but it's just got, this had fresh herbs in it. Picture just beautiful pasta there, okay? Picture this being hot, okay? But you can see the consistency of it, all right? It smells lovely, okay? I have high blood pressure. And the reason that I changed the way that I cook and the way that I teach is because I had to do something about my salt intake. Because as a chef, I was adding too much salt to everything. So these are just some ideas, okay, that I'm trying to sort of push along. I worked with the Onondaga County Department of Health, and I went around to the city of Syracuse school districts, to ESF, to about 4 or 5 other places around Syracuse, and taught them how easy it is to take sodium out of these mass-produced dishes that they're making. All right, so if they can do it at those institutions, you guys can do it at home. All right, so one last thing, and then because I know Corey's getting anxious. Ginger root is a lovely thing to put in things, but it's such a pain to have to peel it. People take a spoon and they sit there and they take the skin off, okay? All you have to do is take ginger and put it up to a box grater. You guys all have a box grater or something. It probably looks about like this. This is from Slocum Hall, for those of you who remember when the home economics was in Slocum Hall, okay? So this is probably 45 years old. Still works, but I call these the teardrops, okay? And you just take it with the skin on. I don't know if this is gonna grate very well. I have a feeling it isn't.
but I would just grate it with the skin. And then I'm going to take everything that I grated, pick it up in my hand, okay? I wouldn't put it on the marinara sauce, but I need to do it somewhere. You're going to see the liquid come out. Okay? That is your ginger flavor. And it didn't take me any time at all to do. I didn't have to peel it. It also takes any sort of bad scent that you have on your hand. If you just chop garlic and you don't want your hands to smell like garlic, it's a great way to do it, okay? Because now they smell like ginger. I love ginger. Watch the ginger juice because it has some spice. And that's it. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. And I'm happy to take any questions you might have.
All right, great. So if you actually want to stay right there,
Yeah,
Bill.
yeah.
All right, wonderful. So we actually have a lot of questions that came in. First off, I just want to make sure everyone can hear me, so we follow our social distancing guidelines. All right, so the first question, Chef Collins, was about low sodium ketchup sauce. I know you talked a lot about barbecue sauce, but folks were curious about alternatives for ketchup.
That's what's in the barbecue sauce. It's a no salt added, low sodium ketchup. Yes.
Perfect.
The only way you're going to achieve that huge reduction, ketchup is notorious for having, they say that you should only eat when you're eating 2 tablespoons of ketchup. I mean, please, folks, come on. You know, you've got your pile of fries that are covered in salt, and you're dipping them into salt that's flavored with tomato. Okay, so you got to watch that.
All right. Melinda in the chat was asking, what type of pans do you use and that you recommend for different types of cooking? Iron pans seem to be the latest craze again, but Melinda was curious about your recommendation.
I think you should find a pan that you like. Again, you saw what I did with that pan, okay? It was about the temperature of the oil. I have a bunch of old pans at home, not because I was looking for antique pans, just because that's what I have. And I can make them all work, okay? So, I mean, there are some really good pans. Let's see what this is, because I think this is a pretty good pan. This is a Vollrath, V-O-L-L-R-A-T-H, Vollrath. It's a great pan, okay? Some of the Cuisinarts or the Calphalon, you got to just kind of watch it. You're going to get what you pay for, okay? And if you get the really cheap stuff, they're going to warp, and you're not going to have a flat surface to work on. That's probably the biggest thing. You want heavy bottom, especially for a saute pan.
Great. Didi was curious, how high is the heat on both of the sauces? Was it a simmer?
I started it up pretty high, and then you have to use all your senses when you're cooking. Okay, so I was listening for the sizzle of the onions, and then I turned it down. So for you guys at home, I turned it down to probably medium, okay, as I was sweating those, but I was watching them. So you have to be careful. Yeah, I would go down then to low, and they're just sitting on simmer, pretty much simmer to, very low. And just let them go, let them go for a couple hours. If they start to look dry, add some water. Water's a wonderful thing because all you're doing is taking water out.
Great. Bernadette was wondering, what's the best oil for cooking? A high heat. She's also started using avocado oil. I was curious about your thoughts.
There's nothing wrong with avocado oil. It's expensive, I think. I've never bought it. I use a nondescript high smoke point oil, which would be sometimes listed as salad oil, canola oil, vegetable oil, safflower oil. They have no flavor. The fact that they don't have any flavor, there's no particles in it. The particles are what smoke first. You can't get the heat high enough if you have a flavored oil. You don't sear in extra virgin olive oil. It's too expensive, okay? And the smoke point is too low. It's gonna start to smoke too early. So you wanna go with just sort of a nondescript oil that's not expensive. I've heard good things about avocado oil. I really have. So go for it if it's working for you.
Great. We had a couple questions about different types of salt. Can you share with us what you think about pink Himalayan salt as well as gray sea salt?
I would use them both as finishing salts. It's just something that you might, if you did a really low sodium dish, like I'm showing you here, and then you just a little crack of them, because it's usually pretty big grains. I have some pink Himalayan salt in a grinder at home, and it's just literally, you know, I just give it about a quarter twist and let that sprinkle out. Can most of us don't have the palate to really be able to say, oh, you must have used pink Himalayan salt here. But if you put it on, if you're just doing a tiny little appetizer and you put just a little tiny bit on it, you might be able to discern that.
Great. Annette was curious, and I am too, actually, because I've had the same problem. How do you clean all the little bits on the microplane when you're done using it?
On the microplane?
Mm-hmm.
You go into the professional kitchen with huge sprayers and you just spray it off. You know, it's very simple. No, I would just try to get as much force as you can, and also angle it so the water's coming down here and going against the cutting blade. So it's going that way, okay? Don't go this way, because that's the way it's meant to cut.
Great. Linda was curious, what is jade sauce and what is it used on? Can you tell us a little bit more about it?
Jade sauce. So jade sauce should conjure up the color green. That's why I named it jade sauce. Okay, that's a sauce that I've been serving in restaurants for over 20 years. And the kids laugh at me because I don't measure anything. I'm just putting scallions in it, cilantro, cucumber, jalapeno, anything green. And I just put it in there, okay? You can do it two different ways. You can do it with tofu, okay? Or you can do it with non-fat yogurt. And I like either, okay? I served that for years with scallops as an appetizer. Just a little dollop. It's very fresh. There's a lot of acid going on, and it's just very fresh. The cucumber makes it lovely.
Great. We also have another question about coriander. Can you talk to us about what you use coriander on, what the taste is like? For those of us not familiar.
It tastes like coriander. That's an awful thing to say, but you just got to get some and crack the seeds and smell that. It's nothing like cilantro, if that helps, because a lot of people don't like cilantro. Okay, coriander seed, cracked coriander seed, does not taste like that. It's indicative of Asian dishes. A lot of Asian sauces have cracked coriander seed in. I put it in rice. I put it in risotto. I'll put it in with quinoa. So those are just some ideas.
Great. We also had a couple of questions about your favorite tools. What are some of your favorite things that you find yourself using the most, maybe even in your home kitchen? There we go.
Tongs and a 10-inch chef's knife. Okay, I can pretty much do anything with these two things. I do like a microplane. I really do. This is a French mandolin. Okay, they're not cheap. They're like $180, but it's all stainless steel. I have one at home that I've had for 22 years, and it's still sharp as can be. But I can make waffle cut fries with this. I can julienne vegetables. They have all these attachments down on the bottom. It's just a lovely, lovely thing to have.
Great. All right, so bear with me a second. I'm gonna flip us around here real quick. All right. Okay, so I think we got to everyone's questions. Are there any other questions? Oh, it looks like Franny wanted to share that she had a lot of fun and she actually spent time in the cafe in Slocum's basement back in the 70s. And I absolutely agree, Linda. We timed out this program to get everyone hungry for dinner time if you're on the East Coast. I'm very excited about dinner time as well. All right, wonderful. We will absolutely go ahead and stick on for a few more minutes where you can feel free to unmute yourself. I just had a couple quick closing remarks. And Melinda, thank you again for that comment. We definitely will talk with Chef Collins about doing some more programs like this. Maybe for solo couples. I could use more cooking help myself, so I completely agree. All right, well, thank you again, Bill. Thank you so much. This was such an interesting demo and a discussion. I really can't wait to try all of these cooking tricks at home. So everyone that joined us tonight, please do keep an eye out on your email for a really quick, short 3-question survey. It'll arrive in about a half an hour after this event. Take a few minutes, fill that out for us. We definitely want to hear your feedback as we continue to plan future programs, including virtual Orange Experience programs, just like this one this evening. And also check out the chat. We just shared some really helpful links. We've got plenty more Orange Experiences coming up that you'll see a link for, as well as other upcoming virtual events being hosted by folks across campus. I do have to do 2 quick plugs as well. If you are a foodie, since you joined us for the cooking class, while these aren't as healthy, they will be fun. We are in December doing a Make the Perfect Pizza at Home event, and we're also doing a Wine for Entertaining and Wine is Gifts event. Both of those are also complimentary virtual Orange Experience programs. So I hope that you have a chance to sign up for those. They're actually being led by a faculty member, as well as Scott's Pizza Tours based out in New York City. So we're very excited to offer those 2 opportunities, both in December. And if you click that link for the interactive programs that Kate with our office just popped in the chat, you'll see all the information. And we'll absolutely take all your feedback about more cooking classes. We love to hear that, and we're so glad you enjoyed it. Thank you again, everyone. Like I said, we'll stay on a few more minutes if you want to unmute yourself and have any questions for our resident chef. Otherwise, thank you again for joining us. Go Orange. Thanks, everybody.